Hey guys, hope you are all doing fine and well. I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like you could do something better than your superior at work? Or maybe you are in college and you think that your professor is talking crap, and you believe that you can actually refute most of what he is saying easily? Well, that's what outshining the master is all about. That's the first law of power from Robert's Greene book. And I have to say, I've felt the urge to do that many times myself, and I've given in to that urge more than once. And that's not a good thing. I remember vividly when I was in college, this was in Morocco, 2016, and I had this professor who always stressed the importance of critical thinking, free inquiry, debates, arguments, discussions, and so on. And I thought to myself, that's a good thing. I'm into that. I love that. And so one day, the same professor was talking about divorce in America, and he asked us, why do you think divorce is so prevalent in America despite it being a rich country? Now I know I was the exceptional kid in the class, all right? So I didn't say anything at first. I wanted to hear what the other students are going to say. So the other students just gave normie answers like lack of communication, they don't love each other anymore, so on and so forth. And so I decided to tell my professor a real answer and see how he's going to react to it. Now, I know that my professor is a lefty, all right? Like all university professors. And I kind of knew that he wouldn't like my answer, but still, I felt the urge that I need to tell him this answer. And so I did. And so I told him, Professor, the reason why divorce is so prevalent in America is because the American legal system is incentivizing women financially to divorce, which is why more than 70% of divorces are initiated by women. And the 30% that's left is also initiated by women, but inadvertently. I mean, why wouldn't you want a divorce if you know that you're going to take half the man's assets, alimony, child support, and so on and so forth? Why wouldn't you want a divorce? Now, when I said this, my critical thinker of a professor said, "What? You think women divorce for money?" And I just told him, well, I'm not saying that's the entire story, but the financial incentive is quite strong, so we can't just dismiss it. It must have a role. It must be a strong factor in this divorce equation. And then he was like, no, don't say that. That's right-wing propaganda. And of course, he didn't elaborate how is it right-wing propaganda. He just said, no, don't say that. He basically told me to shut up. So I had to tell him, well, that's not an argument, professor. Give me an argument, because saying it's just saying it's right-wing propaganda is not an argument. Now at this point, the entire class was in a frenzy. Some students were laughing. They were looking at me in a weird way. Girls were also looking at me. Everybody, it was a mess. I felt like going to a mosque and telling everybody there is no God. That's how it felt. It was so shocking at the time. And I know it had, what I said had shock value, but still, it's a legitimate argument. Now everybody knows that. But at the time, in Morocco, in 2016, in a Moroccan university with a lefty professor and normie students saying this was quite shocking. So my professor simply said, he said nothing. He just ignored me. He just cut the debate, discussion, whatever you want to call it. And he just continued on with his boring class. And at that time, I knew that I once again fucked up and I outshined my master. Now, needless to say that, of course, he fucks me over when it comes to my grades, by the end of the semester. But I mean, I'm doing fine. I did fine and I'm doing fine, so it's no big deal. However, it's a good lesson. That was a good lesson, and it's not just when it comes to university or work, it's a life lesson. You should never, ever outshine your master. You should never prove that your superior is wrong in front of people. And that's basically what I did. Now, at the time, I didn't think of it that way, to be honest. And the reason why I didn't think of it that way, because he was stressing the importance of critical thinking and open debates and whatever. But if you think about it, people are people. Whether he is a professor or whatever, he has his ego still invested in what he is saying. And when you come up to this, university professor as a nobody, and you prove him wrong and he can't tell you anything in front of the entire class, of course he's going to get hurt. Of course his ego was hurt. Now, if I were in his position, I would simply say, that's an argument that I never heard before. Maybe I will go and search it and look into it more further. Thank you. That's how I would have done it if I was a professor. But of course, he was so offended. He simply had to tell me to shut up and not propagate right-wing propaganda. But yeah, it's a good lesson. Do not try to outshine your master, whether he is your professor, boss, whatever. You should always understand your position in the hierarchy of power. You should always know where you are positioned in the hierarchy of power, and you should act accordingly. Do not threaten your superiors. Do not try to prove them they are wrong. Do not try to show them that you are smarter than them. And at the same time, do not insult your inferiors, people who are below you in the social hierarchy of power. Do not threaten your superiors. Do not insult your inferiors. This is an important lesson, because if you want to maneuver your way to the top in life, you have to do it smoothly, and you shouldn't be picking fights with people who can fuck you over, with people who have power over you. So yeah, the first law of power is really important. I always remind myself, do not outshine your master. Do not outshine your master. Now I have to say I failed more than I can count, but still, I keep it in my head right now all the time. Always think of the consequences of what you are about to do with your superior. Being right is not that important in life. You want to win. You don't want to be right. You want to win. You can be right, but at what cost? At what cost? So always think of the consequences of your actions. Always think in terms of power dynamics, and never insult or never threaten your superiors. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have a similar story, please write it in the comments below. I would love to read that. And stay awesome. Have a good day.